The New World Order. Is this scheme to establish a new world order in fact a reality? Yes, it is. If you do not believe this, I encourage you to study the United Nations documents and also the treaties which, once ratified by individual nations, become international law. The United Nations created the Commission for a Global Governance. If you don't believe this, visit the United Nations website and look it up. The Commission for Global Governance released a report, Our Global Neighborhood, that predicates a world court, a global tax, and global police force. And the U.S. State Department publication 7277 outlines a one-world police force under the United Nations. So many prominent world leaders are calling for a one-world government. The intention is obvious. Yet most people are so occupied by life's responsibilities, careers, sports and television, they have little time to study what's going on in the corridors of power. The coming one-world government is being set up in the political arena under the flag of the United Nations, through organizations such as the Trilateral Commission, Council of Foreign Relations, the Royal Institute of International Affairs, the Bilderbergers, and the Club of Rome, whose members include many world leaders, media personalities and other influential people. The published goal of the Council of Foreign Relations, for example, is a one-world government. And although most have never heard of many of these groups, they do exist, and they are very influential. The core of these groups hold to a Illuminist philosophy. A second focus is economics with free trade agreements, the International Monetary Fund, World Bank and the Bank of International Settlements. The coming global monetary crisis is intended to institute a universal debt-based currency controlled by the international financiers and issued to individuals against biometric identification cards. This is all about control. The third area of focus is religion. Organizations like the World Council of Churches and the Parliament of World Religions were established to introduce a new world religion. It is based on a pantheistic, humanist philosophy. Pay careful attention when you study the documents and reports published by the United Nations and related organizations. This philosophy is now being taught in the education system and has been implemented under programs such as Goals 2000. The New World Order will be socialism. Read the United Nations declarations and treaties for proof of this fact. The individual will be subservient to the state. Rights and power reside in and derive from the state, not the individual. United Nations documents all speak of collectivism. They claim that private ownership and management of property is not to the benefit of the human race. These things are cloaked in a pleasant language, and most people are taken in and deceived. Yet few bother to study these documents. In the New World Order you will be in serfdom to the controlling elite. You will have no liberty, and no rights. The state will look after you for your best interests. Do you see how the governments of the free world are slowly becoming more involved in everyday life? This is exactly what socialism is. The government becomes involved in every aspect of personal life. Today we require a license for so many things. In Australia, farmers now require permission to farm the land they own. This is not freedom. In the New World Order, private ownership of property will be abolished. You will only own what you need. After all, this is best for the world. We need to be looked after. Terms such as sustainable development mean depopulation and serfdom. The masses continue to fall for lie after lie after lie. Study history and you will discover that there have been very few free societies. Those that were free were either overthrown or fell into the trap of socialism, totally unaware of the dangers until it was too late. Socialism, communism, is always implemented through deception. History portrays a repetitive phenomenon. Enslavement, revolt, freedom, apathy, enslavement. Enslavement frequently followed revolution because the people did not realize that socialism was slavery, not freedom. Today environment is being used to make people feel guilty, enticing them to accept socialism as necessary. The environmental movement has been co-opted to strip private ownership of control and exploitation of resources. Many environmental facts are lies. exaggerations and unscientific claims to manipulate the masses in the classic Hegelian dialectic, create the problem, create opposition to the problem, then present your own predetermined solution. Global warming is a perfect example. I recommend reading the study, their report from Iron Mountain, which suggested the environment as a tool by which to manipulate the masses to accept loss of freedom to a one-world government. Although a landowner pays taxes, and is steward of his land, its usage is dictated by international bureaucrats, empowered by vague treaties, driven by an insane theology, genocidal philosophy approved by the bullying, bribing tactics of governments. The United Nations goal is to reduce population selectively by encouraging abortion, forced sterilization, and control human reproduction, and regards 2/3 of the human population as excess baggage, with 350,000 people to be eliminated per day. Jacques Cousteau, UNESCO Courier, November 1991. Anyone who speaks against the incoming system will be labeled anti-government or a troublemaker, and either executed or imprisoned with majority assent. Citizens will support the new order because they will have been brainwashed by propaganda and will not understand what is really happening. Already in the United States, those who support the Constitution, patriots and the militia groups are ridiculed as crazy paranoids and dangerous extremists. In Australia, it's the supporters of Pauline Hanson's One Nation and Graham Campbell's Australia First parties who are ridiculed and persecuted. These are merely people who are aware of what is going on. If you are one of those who believe that these patriots who are against globalism are crazy and deluded, I ask, have you ever spoken to one? Have you checked the validity of their claims? Or are you blindly following what the media feeds you? Currently, the United Nations is trying to establish the framework for an international criminal court. When this is established, the United Nations will be able to detain anyone from any nation and bring them before a panel of judges who will hear the case and pass judgment. This international court will deal with our crimes against humanity and environmental crimes. If you think there is nothing wrong with this, I suggest you read how the UN defines environmental crime. A system is being created whereby those in control will be empowered to manufacture a crime and arrest anyone they deem a threat. The courts have no jury, one is guilty until proven innocent, and there is no appeal. Also, because this court is international, and your nation has surrendered its authority, your own country cannot protect you. This is going to affect you directly. In the coming world government you will have no personal liberty and no freedom. Did you know that the Global Biodiversity Assessment calls for human population to be reduced from 5.6 billion to 1 to 2 billion within the next decade? Reference GBA Section 9.2.3.2. You didn't see that on the 6 o'clock news, did you? Read the Declaration Towards a Global Ethic and learn what it classifies as authentically human. This is an UNEP, United Nations Environmental Program, prepared by Hans Kung. Learn how the United Nations define a hate crime. Did you know, for instance, that under Canadian law this website is classified as a hate site? Pending UN legislation, and also Genocide Convention, classify this as a hate site. However, there is no hate whatsoever on this site, just a call for people to wake up to what is going on, and to receive God's word. The only groups and/or people that I am against are those who believe in and seek to enforce socialism, illuminism upon others. De-skilling of trades. People have slowly been de-skilled in recent years. Mechanics no longer fix a problem so much as they replace the component. Body and fender men no longer beat panels so much as they replace plastic moldings. I am in a trade myself and my trade has been de-skilled in similar ways. I have talked with other tradesmen and this is happening in all trades. Of course technological progress will bring about change, but de-skilling goes far beyond this. For example, many car parts now come as a complete totally enclosed unit. If a small part breaks down, the whole unit must be replaced. Less skill is required to loosening a few screws and install a new unit than to repair the component. Yet it would be cheaper and less wasteful to fix the unit. This de-skilling is intended to make the new society wholly dependent on the system. People will be unable to maintain private transport and will become dependent upon public infrastructure and the state. This is why small farming has been replaced with large-scale operations. In Australia, for instance, the farming industry has been all but destroyed. Most farmers are deep in debt because of rising interest rates, and all fiat money, and loss of markets due to the government programs of economic rationalism opening the doors to cheaper imported produce. Many people have been lured into dependence on the state through welfare programs such as the single mother pensions. Such easily obtained benefits encourage people to rely upon government support. The more one is dependent upon the state, the more one is bound to state rules. I am not against helping those who need support, I am trying to explain the principle involved. The welfare system is a plank towards socialism. A nation of well-informed men, who have been taught to know and prize the rights that God has given them, cannot be enslaved. It is in the region of ignorance that tyranny begins. Benjamin Franklin. All this is designed to destroy the existing world order from within to bring about a new world order, a new way of doing things. The present order is based upon Christian principles. This foundation proved very successful. Contrast those nations built upon Christian foundation with nations that were established on a pagan or Islamic foundation. The Christian nations have had freedom, liberty and opportunity for all citizens, whether Christian or not. In these nations, the people have sovereign inalienable God-given rights, and government is responsible for protecting those rights. The rights of personal freedom, individual liberty and private property are granted by an authority higher than man, thus this authority cannot be overruled by men. This is the foundation upon which the United States was built. These are principles the establishment has attempted to quash. At the other end of the spectrum we see the United Nations Charter and related documents wherein individual rights are a privilege granted by government. A big difference. If our individual rights are a privilege granted by the state, these individual rights can be taken away. Don't fall for the lie that they will not be. Every governing system that denies unalienable rights come from our Creator has been a system of slavery of the masses. The blood runs. This Christian foundation has been intentionally eroded through mass manipulation and the mind control techniques. Members of various secret societies in key positions in society have played a major role in this breakdown, gradually changing and enacting legislation, employing the media, religion and education, to move the ancient landmarks, and bring us closer to one world government. The way people view the world nowadays has been altered. They created the term generation gap. Yet the generation gap is a lie and is not real. Human needs and nature remain remarkable constant, only technology changes. You may be wondering why anyone would want to do this to society. You must understand what these people actually believe. It is all about religion and it matters little whether you believe their religion or not. They believe in it, so it is going to affect you. Secret societies and the New World Order. The plan to establish one world government is not new. It is a long-established goal of those who practice the mysteries. The mystery religion is the oldest of all the world's religions. In fact, all the world's religions stem from the mysteries except true Orthodox Judaism and true biblical Christianity. The mystery religion stems back to ancient Babylon. The initiates of the mysteries have a goal they term the Great Work. They hold this to be a benevolent world dictatorship. It is the sort of benevolent dictatorship Adolf Hitler wanted. Adolf Hitler was himself an Illuminist and a member of the Thule Society. The entire SS were also initiates. The Great Work is a process of illuminating the human soul to a state of apotheosis. It will be completed when the whole human race achieves this state. The mysteries hold to the Platonic ideal wherein humanity is a singular organism. Adherents view humanity as one collective being, and the individual must sacrifice for the benefit of the whole. Yet the individuals in question are you and me. Socialism and communism have their roots in the mystery religion. And despite what so-called experts may say, there is little difference between socialism and communism. The USSR stood for the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. People are initiated into the mysteries by degrees. Those who possess the correct attributes continue to rise to the higher degrees. This method of progression through initiation ensures the complete indoctrination of the initiate into the philosophical teaching of the mysteries. Who are these people? They are the members of all the various secret societies and fraternal organizations such as the Freemasons, Rosicrucians, Knights of Malta, Knights Templar, the Vatican and many more. It should be stressed that the majority of the members of these secret societies are absolutely unaware of the true nature of their society, church or lodge. The higher initiates are known as the adepts or keepers of the secrets of all ages. The members may belong to any religion when they join the society, yet when they reach the higher echelons and become the adepts, I assure you they all practice the same religion. One thing to remember with regards to these secret societies is that they are all the same at the higher levels. All the adepts belong collectively to what is known as the Illuminati, which means the Illumin Ones. The Illuminati are those who have progressed through the various initiations in the particular branch of the mystery schools to which they belong until they have reached the stage of true illumination. Thus these people actually believe that what they are doing is right, just as Adolf Hitler thought that what he was doing was right and beneficial to humanity. If you study back to the 13th century you will see that the Knights Templars were financiers. The international financiers of today are still Knights Templars. The worship of this religion is practiced in secret. The dogma and intentions of this religion are hidden by way of symbology. The average person sees the exoteric, outward or literal meaning of the symbols, while the adept, initiate or illumined see the esoteric or hidden meaning of the symbol. For example, if you study ancient history you will see that all the ancient cultures practiced sun worship. The average person, the uninitiated whom they term the profane, saw the sun in the exoteric and worshipped it as a god. While the high priest saw the esoteric meaning and realized that the sun was only a symbol which represented a greater truth. The sun actually represents the intellect, and this is the doctrine or secret of the mystery religion. The moon represents the church of the mystery school and the stars represent the initiates. The moon does not shine with its own light but with the light of the sun. The church of the mysteries is itself lit up from the intellect. The characters in the stories of ancient civilizations represented these objects. For example, Osiris and Isis in Egypt represented the sun and the moon respectively. The movie, 2001, A Space Odyssey was an esoteric message to the body of initiates. Very few people understood its true meaning. It was not meant to be understood by the profane. But the adepts of the mystery schools understood it perfectly. The ancient stories of Babylonian, Egyptian and Greek mythology have more meaning than most people realize. Archaeologists and historians only see the exoteric and thus miss the whole point of what it all really means. When George Bush referred to 1,000 points of light in his speech in 1991, he was using the symbolic language and was referring to the body of initiates. When Bill Clinton in his State of the Union address was speaking of about the setting sun and then the dawning of the new era, he was also using symbolic language. The average person heard the exoteric meanings of these statements while initiates the world over smiled to themselves, as they understood the true meaning. You see, George Bush is a member of the Order of Skull and Bones Society. Bill Clinton holds the 33rd degree in the Masonic Lodge. Bob Dole, a Republican, is a 33rd degree Freemason. So it doesn't really matter for whom you vote, you are in effect voting for the mysteries. These people and many others are all practitioners of the mysteries and know exactly where the world is going. Many judges belong to secret societies. These people are everywhere and are all indoctrinated in the philosophy of the mysteries. These people believe they have reached a higher point in their evolution, another deception, and have the necessary wisdom to rule the rest of mankind. They believe there are but a few mature minds in the world and that those with the mature intellect need to guide humanity. They consider themselves illumined. All this is true and can be verified in their own writings. This is what they believe. Unless you are willing to open your mind and research this topic, you will continue to be deceived. The coming New World Order is based on an occult philosophy known as the pure Luciferian doctrine or Illuminism. The symbology for this religion is everywhere. Unveiling of the mystery religion. This religion's public unveiling has been occurring for quite some time. Although the average person who sees only the exoteric so will miss it completely. In Scottish Rite of Freemasonry, the 30th to 33rd degrees are degrees of illumination, with the 33rd being the most sought after by the illumined man. The 33rd degree is the highest publicly known degree in Freemasonry. The number 33 signifies illumination and freedom from religious dogma, superstition. The human backbone contains 33 vertebrae with the cranium, intellect, on top. The number 13 is also significant in the mysteries. In the occult gematria, number system, the number 6 represents man. The number 7 represents divine perfection or God. The Hebrew, biblical, gematria system is identical for these particular numbers. Thus it can be seen that the number 13 is a combination of man and divine perfection, which is exactly what Illuminism actually is. Man becomes a god. The York Rite of Freemasonry has 13 degrees, only 9 publicly. The Bavarian Order of Illuminati, Adam Weishaupt's branch, also had 13 degrees. The obelisk, a phallic symbol pertaining to Osiris, is another important symbol in the mysteries and symbolizes the lost word of Freemasonry or the secret of the mysteries. The obelisk is a symbol of the sun god, intellect, or generative force. To understand this fully, it is necessary to study the Osirian cycle, but I will not go into that now. Consider the following examples. The Pope's cassock has 32 buttons and his head represents the 33rd. If you look at the roof of the United Nations General Assembly, you will see a large light, circular light surrounded by 32 smaller lights. If you look at the United Nations own symbol, you will see a circle divided up into 32 sections with the center being the 33rd. On the United Nations symbol you will notice 13 leaves on the olive branch. The symbol for the Soviet Union has this feature as well as 32 rays emanating from the sun, with the sun being the 33rd. The Washington Monument is an obelisk. There is an obelisk at the Vatican surrounded by a circle. This represents the union of Osiris and Isis, exoteric. These two symbols are surrounded further out by 32 archways on each side of the courtyard. In all it is an outdoor temple of the mystery schools. Examine the two great seals of the United States on the US $1 bill. Count the number of 13s. On the eagle, one wing has 32 sections while the other has 33. The symbology in these two seals is evident to all who understand the symbolic language. 13 inches is equal to 33 centimeters. Our measuring system originated in Masonic France in the 1790s. 666 divided by 212 Fahrenheit, boiling point of water, is equal approximately to pi, 3.14. Ice melts at 32 degrees Fahrenheit, corresponding with the degrees of illumination in the Masonic Lodge. D. Fahrenheit was most definitely a student of the occult. Along with these few examples, you will notice that many buildings, particularly those owned by foundations such as the Rockefeller Foundation, have symbology incorporated into their designs. Look out for symbols of the sun, pyramids, obelisks, the all-seeing eye of Osiris, the circle with a dot in the middle, a snake in a circle biting its tail. The list of symbology goes on, and is common in our civilization. The UFO movement is laced with the mystery symbology. These people believe in aliens from other planets and are deceived because they do not understand the symbolic language. Were they to take time to seriously study what the theory of evolution actually teaches and the evidence upon which it is actually based, they would learn that life cannot evolve. I myself was stunned when I discovered this truth, which upsets many people because of its philosophical implications, yet this is a provable fact. The New Age movement is full of the symbology, Flick through the magazines in the New Age section of your newsagent or library. You will see the sun and other symbology everywhere. The New Age movement is a revival of occult mysticism which teaches that every human being can tap into their inner Christ consciousness and become their own God. Yet because these people haven't studied history to find the roots of what they follow, they do not understand its true principles. What I have explained here about the mysteries is only an example of what is happening. Volumes could be written on this subject. The people who practice this religion are seated among the most influential in the world. I urge you to find out how many presidents of the United States have belonged to the Masonic Lodge. Most of them have been Masons. Even the street plans of Canberra and Washington, D.C. incorporate Masonic symbology. I have learned from personal experience that most people when presented with this information dismiss it as a figment of the imagination of conspiracy theorists. The mass media and society in general hold to this view. Sadly, very few people think for themselves nowadays, and few are willing to check the validity of this information. However, it is factual and may be readily verified from documentation in the public domain. But you must check it out for yourself. World leaders, established education and media will never bring light on this subject. I find most people do not want truth. They would prefer to feel comfortable. Most people do not want to learn any truth they fear may breach their comfort zone. Truth also tends to compromise their plans and preconceptions, but if they ignore it, it may go away. And for the sake of pride, people don't like to admit to themselves that they have been deceived. Human beings naturally hide from unpleasant realities, which is why some women undergo cosmetic surgery as they get older, while women of all ages paint on the makeup to mask reality. People prefer fantasy and what feels good. This applies to those who refuse to investigate this particular worldview I am expounding. I consider myself a realist. I like to face up to the real world in which I live, not the fiction our political, economic and religious leaders would like us to believe. When Adolf Hitler was building his power base in Germany, some people woke up and realized what was going on. Some were sounding the alarm to what they saw happening, but these people were largely ignored. Some Jews listened and left the country. Some Germans listened and left. Those who ignored the warnings soon found themselves living in tyranny, and wondered how it could have happened. The same warning signs are being shouted from the rooftops in Australia and America today. Yet people are too busy with everyday things to stop and think. As in the 1930s, people are going to be shocked when they lose their freedoms. How fortunate for governments that the people they administer don't think. Adolf Hitler. Everyone who ignores what is going on will suffer for their indecision when plans and comfortable circumstances dissolve around them. Such people will be unable to avoid their fate because all avenues of escape will be closed. They will continue to be controlled and manipulated like a flock of sheep and know it not. They will be slaves. While those who have woken up and prepared both physically and spiritually will be in a far stronger situation, understanding what is happening and why. Troubled times will be upon us all, but is it not better to be informed and able to act, than ignorant, confused and lost? Everything I have written above is truth I have established through documented research. It is not based on conjecture or personal beliefs. It is provable. I am not asking you to believe any of it, but I am asking you to look into it for yourself. You will not regret the few hours spent at your local library. It's not my job to convince you, it is up to you to convince yourself. My task is just to put questions into your mind, encouraging you to think freely for themselves. Finally, all this may seem a somewhat negative, or even scary. But I assure you there is an answer, and this answer is a positive answer. I was led to this answer through my research into the above information. If you truly have a heart and a hunger for the truth, you will surely find the same answer. I hope you found the preceding article interesting. For some well-documented information, I encourage you to take a look at the following link. A Chronological History of the New World Order. After studying the well-documented quotes in that link, please proceed to examine the United Nations treaties and declarations and spend time reading some of the books and articles on this site so you may become more fully informed. I urge you to do your best and try to disprove this subject. You will find it proven. A global economic crisis is very near, and the United Nations socialistic legislation is being enacted at breakneck speed. Ordo ab chao, a Latin phrase meaning order out of chaos, and is the motto of the 33rd degree of the Masonic Lodge. Those who wish to be ignorant and free believe in something that never was and never shall be. Baphomet symbolistically sets forth the aims of the Illuminati by combining two Greek words, baphi and metis, to mean absorption into wisdom. The word is an also acronym for the title Templi Omnium Hominum Pacis Sabus, or Father of the Temple of Universal Peace, reversed. Thus Temohpab becomes Baphomet, Baphomet. Baphomet is actually a symbolic representation of Luciferian divinity, Satan, the evil brother of Jesus, who alone could enrich mankind, Genesis 3:1-5. The legendary god of the Knights Templar, it combines all of the animals and elements of nature and has its roots in symbolic ability to visually portray the teachings of the Neoplatonists and Sabaean mysticism of the Middle East before the rise of Islam. On the Day of Atonement, one goat, Jesus, was sacrificed, while its brother escaped and was banished from the congregation to bear Israel's sins into the wilderness, signifying the rest of the world. The great two-horned hermaphrodite goat bears between its horns the fiery torch and represents Moloch. The pentacle or five-pointed star between the horns of the beast signifies energy and enlightenment or power in the world and separation from God. It is a symbol of ancient secret societies and the sign of the House of Rothschild and of international communism. The right hand of the beast is raised with two fingers pointing upwards to a white moon. The white moon stands for the children of Shem. On the right forearm is written Solve, which means break up or dissolve, the church. The left hand is pointing downwards with two fingers towards a black moon. The black moon stands for the children of Ham. On the left forearm is written, coagula, which means to drive together into one mass or lump. A little serpent's seed can leaven the whole of Adam's race, as it did in the days of Noah. It is the reconstruction of a new world order under the invisible masters of universal Judeo-Masonry, whose motto is out of chaos, order. The beast is enthroned on the world. On the stomach can be seen part of a circle which stands for the Jewish prophet, Zoroaster, the seed of fire. In front of the circle is an apple on a pole around which are entwined two serpents, signifying the forbidden fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. The serpent is Aesculapius, the god of medicine, worshipped in Pergamos in the form of a living serpent. This design reveals the great secret: the race of Shem and Japheth and his civilization are to be destroyed by miscegenation with Ham's offspring through Canaan. By accomplishing this, the Idumeans will gain control of the world for which they have worked for over 2,000 years. Eliphas Levi, whose name appears on the picture, was the Abbé Alphonse Louis Constant, who became a Kabbalist, and wrote History of Magic. The Babylonian Talmud, Ps. 113b, says, 5 things did Canaan charge his sons: love one another, love robbery, love lewdness, hate your masters, and do not speak the truth. For almost 4,000 years these 5 points have been the modus operandi of the Canaanites who today control the world order. Yet this is unknown to those whom the Canaanites continue to rob, enslave and massacre. These instructions are a command to commit genocide against the people of Shem and Christians. The self-styled Jews only use Christian symbols either in derision or as a mask for their intrigues. With reference to the Temple of Solomon, Des Mouches says, this supreme and invisible hierarchy of the Masonic lodges, and which are composed of Kabbalistic Jews, signifies the reconstruction of the Jewish power over the ruin of Christianity, the solve and coagula of Illuminized Masonry.